It's been said that the easiest and most natural way to organize knowledge and experience is in the narrative form. Stories provide a frame of reference, and shifting frames leads us to think differently about ourselves. It was to explore this practice in writings and music that I began the Frame Shifts project. Frame Shifts, the book, is made of linked stories and poems and was published in 2 volumes in 2011. The current release, Coming Around, is about journeys in and out of Richmond over the last 200 years. This is a companion work to the opera Mont and Pinky, which was produced by Capitol Opera last April. The story begins with David Weeks, a Louisiana planter who hired one Edmund Rose to bring a boatload of slaves to Grand Cote Island and build a sugar house. A boatload of slaves, 1815. Maybe Simon Abouet, with 2 cents in his eye, was in the lot from Richmond Weeks came to buy. 50 hands at Bayou Sara climbed aboard a boat my grandfather's grandfather took to Grand Cote. Cast iron grinders, trowels and mules, Jacob staff and twine. Simon was told to carry on, lay aft with line. Near New Orleans, they heard the guns of Jackson and Cochrane, bow west of Vermilion Bay. Anchored in the rain. Over Cyprus, whining insects clouded Tupelo. Regrets, egressing, flew away. Simon didn't know. Simon Abouet stayed on that plantation on the Vermilion River, but the sugar from that plantation made its way back to Richmond, and the sugar pad on the James River. Richmond has always been a crossing place for Nansemond, Chickahominy, and Pamunkey, for Bakongo, English, Igbo, Mande, Dutch, French, for slavers and traders, for planters and spice merchants, for blue and gray. And in our day, Richmond still has many options for beer joints, tats, and toenail polish, and food-like substances delivered to your home or table in neoplastics. And many poets, all of them talking, mostly to each other, sometimes listening. In Richmond, as in other places in the land of the free, where we do what we want and are who we want to be, we do whatever we want because we can. We drift into trances because we can. We dance with ghosts. Sometimes we even awaken and come round. In 2015, 200 years after Simon Abouet, Richmond hosted the UCI races. The cyclists sped past a part of town that in 1938 was called Sophie's Alley. And even in the 1800s, when a British actress lived there, one Eliza Poe, mother of Edgar Allan Poe, Sophie's Alley, 1938, 2015. The Peloton passed through Sophie's Alley, racing crumbling stables, tip pail of kerosene igniting, shouts along East Main Street for a hose, unreal, too late. And time, the winner, always. The rent for the corner room was $1.02. The fans along the rails of Broad Street, who cheered Colombians and Poles in spandex, had paid for space along the route. Such payments enter us for main events like cycling tours or watching cradle melt. Two windows gave the corner room a breeze. The inner room was 2 bits less and stank from slops around the spigot in the courtyard. Years before the fire, and many years before the race, an actress lived there, mother of a poet. When the breeze inhaled the kerosene and supper cinders from the pail to heat her baby's room, another mother watched the finish line. A palisade of flames. Not prominence in life or art, but space along the route. In Richmond, we accept many unchanging ideas about how things are and should be. We accept unbidden systems received at birth, the trampling of local giants and their wounds. It's a similar situation to what Robinson Jeffers once described: man, introverted man, having crossed in passage but briefly this latter century with the nature of things has begat giants. But being taken up like a maniac with self-love and inward conflicts, cannot manage his hybrids. Being used to deal with edgeless dreams, now he's bred knives on nature, turns them inward. So wounds distort reality and yet entrance us. But welcome to a kind of wound treatment center where we apply poetry to what ails you. Like any treatment center, there are no miracle cures, no invincible technologies, no giants with superpowers and heroic tricks, but only palliative care, attention to each other, and compassion. First, we reset the wound by shifting your frame of reference. Careful, don't slip on your categories. You may experience dizziness, a slight loosening from distorted reality. You may feel a sudden urge to kick fate in the teeth. take action on your own. These are only side effects. Actually, wound management is a long-term practice, a daily routine of shifting frames of reference, checking your take on reality, and taking appropriate action or appropriate inaction. So, live with the side effects and realize that the consequence of all this frame shifting is not comfort, but just enough depth to put your life in relief and lead you to ask the question, now what do I do with myself? Just don't answer that question too quickly with 3 easy steps. If, as W.E.B. Du Bois once said, the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line, then perhaps the task of our time is to treat the wounds that won't go away. The wounds of racism, exploitation, injustice, and denial. Such treatment is not like following the directions on a microwave dinner. It's not heroic medicine, but palliative care, showing attention to each other and to the earth that we inseparably inhabit, and showing some persistence in the effort. It's not so much that we each have a piece of the puzzle, as that the pieces you already hold are parts of a puzzle only you can assemble, working in your own studio to master your own materials first, one piece, one step, one root at a time. Sometimes a poem can get to the root of an affliction. You may know there was a man came into Richmond after the flooding of the Vermilion River, 1927. Name of Bill Wishart, came with his pal Henri Finch, who happened to be a descendant of Simon Abuet. They set up a plumbing shop in Richmond. Can't remember, where was it that Bill came from in Louisiana? Touché Parish, where Bill came from, was tallow trees, rye, scum-sheen inlets, geeking frogs, mud-mushing moonlit nights, and herons. You could shout, no one hear you. Green butterflies hop to change coordinates, they reappear a yard away. So Lou and Bill appear in Richmond. Chivalry song, lace curtains packed, saints appeased, to roll tobacco and lay lead pipe. The city spread past Ginter's Hill, past Burley Fields around Mars Robert, past Jordan's Branch, and sprouted taps to every house. Like roots, Bill said. The pipes he laid, cradled down, pulled back on ropes, Finch standing on it like a boat's hull overturned in a ditch the spring had healed. Spread north and west, its runners watered shacks and mansions, all from one source. Sis girl, he told her,
We seem to know things, but it's the bayou feeds our rules. All of us tap it. We only how it makes new life.
This was the story Bill Wishart told himself in Virginia, far from the violent vagaries of the Vermilion River. It's sometimes said that only stories can change the heart, and only the heart can change the mind. But we have our minds made up most of the time. And we get our stories ready-made. We accept the unchanging ideas about how things are and should be, the unbidden systems received at birth, the tramplings of giants too big to fail, the wounds that they create. We accept it all like fate, without question or comment. But fatalism has always seemed to me a hack's way of ending a story. Even in the classical stories, where characters were presented by predetermined ends, there were options available. Even if only the option of how to think about the situation or how to think about oneself. Writing a letter of condolence to a friend whose son had died of polio, Albert Einstein reflected on this. Every human being is a part of the whole. Yeah? We call universe. A part limited by time and space. But he experiences himself as separate by a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. The striving to free oneself from this delusion is the one issue of true religion. Not to nourish the delusion, but to overcome it is the way to an attainable measure of peace of mind. Peace. Shanti, Salom, Salam, Amani, Friede, la paix, la paz. In Abram Vandover's circle song, peace, peace in every step, bringing peace to the world with every breath. As-salam aleikum. Walechem assalam. Lewis Hill said, there is no way to peace. Peace is the way. Dr. King said, peace is not just the absence of tension, but the presence of justice. Peace. Irini, haiwa, hanyi. Ukutula. Peace, peace in every step, bringing peace to the world with every breath. But Monica Coleman says that way was often a way made of no way. Like that man went off the plantation outside Roanoke up into the mountains to catch up with the new river flowing north to Ohio and north to the western line of the Underground Railroad. New river. Oh, I knew there was a river I must follow. Cross the mountain, sleep in daytime. Sometime mountain people help you, but you do not cross a mountain where you cross a field, river. Mountains are sacred peoples. Precious snow they keep and thunder. Hemlock, sassafras, and pawpaw, sumac, river birch, and chestnuts. Watch your face and make you listen. Listen to the mountains speaking, telling you they once were people wandering on the earth and searching, taking, filling till they sank here. Held here by the heavy riches, feet become the slates and boulders, leaving only heads and shoulders, navels making springs beneath them, springs like streams upon them, streams like lashes laid upon them, swept them down to all the valleys. North, the river. North, Ohio. Knew the river I must follow.
Well, those people going on that railroad when it's sweet in the springtime back home.
Sweet in the springtime. In kingdoms of absolute power, the planters would sweeten each hour with music and prose. Thus art often goes for a liberal dose against sour. All those times when the servant would call and patiently wait in the hall as the chamber's retainer for the night soil container, we'd rather not try to recall. Sometimes you would come on the scene of slaves on a beautiful green singing sweet and low for old massa to go, perhaps in a binding machine. Henrietta King, in her 98th year, in West Point, Virginia, told her freedom story. It's called The Peppermint Stick. Toothless, jawless, socket of eye pried half off, she had taken candy and been cracked down under Mrs. Rocker, head held down as switch laid on, arms and legs waggling. Years before, they sat now in failing light, sewing for soldiers. The mistress stopped, sent for someone. Sella, give her freedom. No more gazing from those crooked eyes. Lewis Hill on a walk through Lynchburg from a pass from his master was going past Woodruff's auction house when he saw a woman on the auction block surrounded by buyers. And she said,
Martha, buy my children. Buy my children. They can sew, muck out a stable. They can even set a table. Don't you know they can track and write small, bring your chickens back? Pluck and snap a bowl of beans. Cook up a pot of turnip greens. Lay out your dress and petticoat. Trap a coon or snare a shoat. And if they have to learn a piece, they learn it like a blaze of grease. And if it's nothing I have spoken, how can I walk with my heart broken? Sometimes the wounds are easy to see, as in Charlottesville last year. Yes, sometimes they're very visible. It's almost like bird watching. Still spotted. The Jim Crow is a flightless bird. Sings a sullen song that others, having heard, will never sing along. It has a kind of warning call, interspecific cry, a shriek, alarming one and all to what they must deny. Its markings are distinct, a blaze across a twisted wing, and colored signs that raise questions we're still answering. We can make a gentler path between us. Not everything said need be repeated. Not everything made need be replicated, nor believed transmitted, nor used kept, nor wanted required, nor absorbed incorporated, nor built maintained, nor distrusted, derided, nor ridden, driven, nor decided, demanded, nor prepared, eaten, nor guessed, tested, nor challenged, defied, nor honored, deified, nor linked, strengthened, nor savored, swallowed, nor taken, given, nor given, taken, nor enjoyed, encouraged, nor lost, found, nor listed, installed, nor linked, tightened, nor sown, reaped, nor urged, promised, nor celebrated, catered, nor seasoned,
burned, nor known, uttered, nor admired, glorified, nor punished, abused, nor justified, exacted, nor believed, expressed, nor discovered, revealed, nor unbordered, framed, nor noticed, named, nor dressed, displayed, nor owned, arrayed, nor loved, contained, nor hated, retained. Remember this. Perhaps we can give each other space to breathe. Just take one breath on this side of forever. Embrace all gifts, hold joy and grief together. Hold gladly welcome all of life and death. Just take one breath. Just give one breath. In formless darkness diving, embrace all loss, emptied of task and striving, give keeping nothing, cleansed begin again, just give one breath. We take the breath of all awake and sleeping, their breath we hold like treasures in our keeping, in all the running, flying, crawling, creeping, in every leaf and fungal thread, all take one breath. And I share the breath of those who went before, who built houses and high bowers, my white and black people in Rose Bower, Vermilion Parish, 1847 to 1904. Here grew, from marsh grass and the salty dome of Petit Anse, transplants who shaped a home. They lived with yaupon, muskrat and egret, boiled sugar cane, pulled moss to dry and set, fish crappies from the Teche, and sometimes drowned. Like indigo twisting through rice, they wound, inseparable by roots or seeds or hulls. Transplanted here, they stayed. As strider skulls, or possum snarls, or tree frog peeps, they grew. Built a high bower, slowly learned to do with land and a stranded people whom they owned, whatever pleased them, shot, plucked, and boned whatever flew, drained bogs, complained of labor, rolled hogsheads to the pier until no more sugar or people for their pleasures paid. Now divagate they here, other bayous wade. Writing these poems is like scrubbing at the sleepy language of racism, prying up the corners from the ideas we have about how things are and should be. Sometimes writers will find a metaphor here and there, and the metaphors are like poultices, potions, and salves for the work of wound treatment. Here's a poem, Coming Around, As a healing compound, it's offered for the afflictions of the sugar trade, of sugar itself, the slavery that paid for it, and as a salve for the eyes still entranced by a lost cause. Webster's Tree of Words was the first wonder to our poet cousin, whose mixed compound of beats and syllables constrains conflicts to gently salve our family's flayed affections by deftly delving roots to our afflictions to face them, his face replaced by other faces. As leaved sun crowned the births of golden faces, every generation finds a wonder to be held, a truth for all afflictions to pay out, grip even in the compound damp and windowless, where affection's blunt and turnkey ridicules our conflicts. For every tree and family have conflicts. Begin with Cain and other shadowed faces. The farmer's left in debt, the slave to wonder, the ribbon cane is milled into afflictions, the wonder ground into a sweet compound to pour upon the heart and glaze affections. We raised the flesh of bark to grow affections for sugary confections, later conflicts, wars for rackets, while diplomatic faces beamed assurance and the growing wonder how sweetness brought coffles and afflictions combined into a volatile compound, backs curved, hands slashed for a refined compound, our institutions twisting our affections, we disappeared into a clash of conflicts, a blur of principles, a stream of faces, set not to change but cherish our bold wonder of the world, whatever its afflictions. We blunder to insist on the afflictions born and delivered, the sugary compound of interests remembered, the old affections rehearsed, the long and comfortable conflicts nurtured. We do not come round by saving faces or turning them away to a spent wonder. Apply to self-afflictions this smooth compound. This poultice transforms conflicts and affections, a wonder when applied to hearts and faces. Kurt Vonnegut once said, "The arts are not a way to make a living, they are a very human way of making life more bearable." Practicing an art, no matter how well or badly, is a way to make your soul grow, for heaven's sake. Sing in the shower, dance to the radio, tell stories, write a poem to a friend, even a lousy poem. Do it as well as you possibly can. You will have created something. And I say, by countless steps and endlessly coming and going, all things make their way. You too, working in your own studio to master yourself, master your own materials first, one step, one piece, one root at a time, you make your way. And forgive me if I fall flat on my ars poetica when I say to you that you only are obliged to breathe. The swats, fits, snits, and other counterfeits that we are heir to, whether form fixe or vexations to be swallowed for approval by committee, may be required to avoid pity, or to be allowed to hang around even by your anapests and trochees. But you are not obliged to be admired. You only are obliged to breathe So breathe in. Take in all harm and grief and loss, warmth, honesty, and aspiration. Yes, also animosity and perversity and insulation from seeing and inflicting pain. Breathe in, then breathe out. Give order, valuation, estimation, valuation, choice and will to live, to change and plan. Transmogrify and glorify. Take and give. Do not stand pat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was great. Thanks for coming, everybody. What do you think, encore?
Another hour's worth.
Question and answer period?
Rose, you are the quintessential of a one-man band.
Yeah, I've always been a one-man band, unfortunately. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Any questions? Anybody want to? Yes.
Could you just clarify, when Bill Wishart came back to Richmond, was he accompanied by, tell us who he was accompanied by?
Henri Finch.
And that person's race?
He's black.
And how, could you tell us how you found that out and what the significance?
I made it up.
I thought this was genealogy.
It is. It is genealogy, history, and fiction to make a true story. So you have all of it there, and some pieces. Actually, I have a fact checker right here, because this is Judy Henry sitting right here, and she actually wrote the one of my references for our family, and she knows that some of this is true and some of it's not true. Yes.
When did you start thinking about writing this? Has it been for a long time, or was there a specific inspiration? Or?
This is probably about 3 years. 3 years old. Actually, what got me going was a long train ride and looking at the categories for the Poetry Society of Virginia's requirements for their poems. And it turned out to be a prompt. But also I was working on Mont and Pinky at the same time. That's the opera that some of you have seen. And they combine, because Pinky's, if you read this closely, you'll find that Pinky's family actually appears in here also. Pinky's family appears in this book, and in this book, and in the opera. And Pinky was a person that worked for my aunt back in Fort Worth. But of course what I do with her is fictional. Anything else? Okay, you've been sitting for a while, so thank you. And I'll sign books or whatever you want to do, and stop with it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.